let's mix it up. Let's move round into our
No.
main topic, because that was one of the sort of golden age, really, of PlayStation sort of narrative-driven games, wasn't it? They were Last of Us, God of War, Horizon, all of those things that, and Spider-Man as well as Spider-Man 2. So that sort of was Sony's bread and butter, really, on the PlayStation 5. But coming out of summer showcase season, PlayStation don't really have anything like that lined up particularly, and we talked about their state of play last month. But they've sort of gone with, as you alluded to, there's a bit more sort of family-friendly stuff coming from them. We saw massive stream with loads of games from Xbox, and we also saw Summer Game Fest. Nintendo Direct had a stream very recently. So wondered if you had any general thoughts, and then we're gonna do some picks, aren't we? Gonna pick out some of our favourites.
Yeah, we are. Hopefully it goes well. There's very limited research done during football this afternoon. Yeah, so concept I like these days. I think I mentioned in previous episodes I've never really heard of the whole concept before because I missed out running video games for a long time and only just got back into them recently. But it's good fun. It's nice to see what's coming up. The only annoying thing is quite a few of the games aren't coming until like late 2025 or even some in 2026, which is a long way away. So it's nice to get excited about them now, but in the space of the next year or a year and a half, they might go down the toilet. The developing house might get disbanded and they might run out of money and none of the games might come out. So in some ways, it's nice to see what's coming. It's quite nice to build the excitement up, but I probably prefer it where they're coming out in the next 3 months, so you know it's actually coming, and B, you can like shortlist it so you can get it when it comes out, and C, you haven't got too long to wait. So I'm a bit annoyed that quite a few of them are late 25, early 26. That's my only thoughts on it, really, but nice to see. Quite exciting.
Yeah, no, I think that's really fair, and historically, I think companies have been quite guilty of sort of putting out like pre-rendered trailers for something that doesn't come for years. I mean, the most I heard on another podcast actually that there was a game called Duke Nukem Forever. Do you know Duke Nukem at all? Mm-hmm. So Duke Nukem Forever was previously the record holder in terms of time between a game being announced and actually released, and it was certainly in the high teen years. It was beyond 15 years between announcement and release date, but it's just been passed by Ubisoft for Beyond Good and Evil 2, which was apparently announced in let me get this right, 2008. So it is now the longest in development game ever, or certainly of the big ones, and it's still apparently on its way, although no one's seen anything of it for years and years. So yeah, that sort of long lead time, nice to get hyped for something, but yeah, you're right, better to have something coming up soon, and so maybe that has influenced what you've picked. Do you want to go first or second, James? How much time do you need?
I think there's a couple. I think there's going to be a couple that you're going to pick the same as me. Okay. I'd imagine. Should we start with mixtape, just because it sounded quite different and fun?
Excellent. Yeah, that's on mine too. Go for it.
I know you've got some views on mixtape, but it was sort of some students that were at college together, I believe, is the concept. Probably in America. It's got to be American. It's always in America. And they're sort of going to their final meetup, sort of final occasion before they leave to go on to the next stage of their life, and using the medium of a mixtape, so lots of songs from the 90s, they sort of evoke different memories of stuff they've done in the past and how their friendship came together and the things they've experienced as a group and individually. So you play sort of different bits based on songs that come up that evoke different memories. And obviously, as we know, songs can evoke lots of different memories. So whenever a song comes up from the 90s or 80s or even the noughties these days, always hated that term, you do think of memories in games and places you've been and people you've seen and where you were when you first heard that song or a particular poignant memory. So it's a really interesting concept. I think we both like the idea of there being some 90s music in there. And it's kind of your kind of thing, isn't it? It's like a bit Edith Finchy in format in terms of you go for a sort of a narrative story and there's lots to learn about. Whether there be lots to do for me, who knows? But it's your kind of thing. G, talk about it some more, please. Go for it.
Yeah, no, I think you've kind of highlighted it, and I think at the moment it's just got a lot of potential. It really grabbed me from it was in the Xbox showcase. It was presented. I'm pretty sure it's going to be multi-platform. I think it was on Game Pass or coming to Game Pass, but if not, it'll be there to buy on I think all platforms. I think it was just announced at the Xbox showcase. And I think the way it looked was immediately striking. Potential flashbacks to Harold Halibut in the sense that it had that sort of slight stop motion kind of animation feel, but very different in terms of the graphical style. So it's quite strange that there's been a few games now that kind of have that similar either stop motion or that sort of Into the Spider-Verse like low frame rate animation style. But yeah, looked striking, sounded great, really hit a sort of an atmosphere that I was intrigued by. Obviously, a bit of nostalgia always works, and the character focus. So yeah, that was high on my list. I thought it looked like a great one. Shall I go? Should we go backwards and forwards?
Yeah, do your one.
Let's do that. So I'm going to pick, because overall, I've got to say, and you will, listeners will recall, I tend to be slightly more Xbox player, but own all three consoles and PC. James, I think, tends to play a bit more on PlayStation and PC. So a lot of mine are from the Xbox showcase, but Star Wars Outlaws from Ubisoft really still, it wasn't announced, it's been coming out for a while. In fact, that is a game that's coming out at the end of August this year. So ticks the box that James was talking about, get excited for something that's actually really soon. Slight caveat to that, I haven't actually finished or played Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which I still need to do, so I should probably just get on with that first. The Star Wars Outlaws looks really good. It looks like it's kind of taking the Ubisoft formula, which can be a bit monotonous and a little bit sort of copy and paste with Assassin's Creed and Far Cry's and those sorts of things. But it looks like to me anyway, it looks like a sort of well-paced, good length Star Wars adventure, and it's set outside of the Jedi, so it's more of a sort of Han Solo type scoundrel, a little bit more kind of the rough edges of the galaxy far, far away. And the trailers for that, the video that they showed, the gameplay that they showed of that, had me really intrigued and might get me to drop a month of Ubisoft Plus subscription, because you don't have to buy that. You could just subscribe to Ubisoft Plus for the month. And there are a few other games that I quite fancy trying there too. So that was my first one.
Lovely. There's a few from last month. We talked about last month, so I won't go into those details too much. But obviously, Astrobot we mentioned last month, didn't we? As Astrobot's an awesome platformer.
Yeah.
Probably aimed at children or teens, but equally enjoyable for an adult. So the first full-length Astrobot game is coming out soon. We mentioned before it used to be on the PlayStation VR, the original one. I was kind of groundbreaking on there and probably sold more units than virtually every other game on there because it was really interesting the way they did it using a headset. Very different in terms of a platform because you got to look left and right and up and down and did things so you could see in a sort of 360-degree format rather than just up and down. So that's coming out soon. It's meant to be really long, have lots of fun PlayStation themes from the past. Not in VR, this one, which is a bit of a shame, I suppose, because it could have used it to sell some PSVRs, but they've chosen not to. So it's probably a proper full-length PlayStation 5 game using all the technology, all the fun parts of the joypad, which I always like. Giles hates it, but I love the feature of the joypad. I like things waving in my hand and doing bits and pieces. So that'll be interesting, and it's nice to see it's going to be a long game because Joshua played the first one when it came out on PlayStation 5 and completed it in a few hours because it was a very short game, but very interesting. But this is going to be in
Sorry. Listeners, I don't know. I've just got the giggles because you said I like things waving in my hand. And apologies because I've just completely broken James while he's trying to do his bit. So carry on if you can.
It wasn't even intentional.
No.
I'm at the controller. Because it does fun things in controller, don't it, as you know. So yeah, looking forward to Astrobot. Josh was looking forward to it too, so we'll probably play that together, which is nice to get a bit of me and him game time together on a game that we can both enjoy. So Astrobot. Also from last month, we talked about Silent Hill 2, even though the graphics look a bit dodgy. Looks like one of those Tesla vehicles, doesn't it? Sort of very polygony rather than sleek and sophisticated. But the game itself should be fun. I've never played Silent Hill 2, the original one, so I'm looking forward to a remaster just so I can experience it. Because again, it's meant to be very atmospheric, fairly dark and deep and
Yeah.
probably miserable as well. My kind of game these days.
I was going to say somewhere there's a psychologist listening to this, thinking we need to check these guys are okay.
Where did it all go wrong? So those two things are the only ones on PlayStation 5 that sort of jumped out, and I'm sort of here doing my bit to rep the PlayStation 5. But obviously, all the ones that Giles mentioned in a minute will probably come out on the PlayStation 5 at some stage anyway, due to Xbox's new goal of releasing everything on all the platforms. So what's your next one, G?
Yeah, well, who knows? That is an interesting wrinkle, and I think that's the thing that's sort of hanging over the whole Xbox sort of ecosystem at the moment. But for now, I think they said they were announcing 4, which have come out already. I'm sure there will be more. I think it's naive to think anything else, but it seems like their strategy is still to hold some things back. So it will be interesting what comes out and how quickly, I think, is the big thing. So I suspect things will come to other platforms, but maybe not a launch. So yeah, I'm glad you said Astrobot, because that was my thought when we talked about The Last of Us briefly just now, and talked about I mentioned about Sony previously being quite strong in the kind of third-person narrative adventure. It does feel like they've pivoted a bit towards a more family-friendly run. It might just be how our release dates have lined up, but between that and the Lego Horizon game that you alluded to earlier as well, really does feel like PlayStation's kind of first-party lineup anyway is a lot more focused on family-friendly stuff, which I'm a big fan of diversifying out, and if they can get all of those releasing in a sort of more regular interspersed cadence, that would be great. I've gone, I think in general, I'm glad we mentioned Mixtape, because that was a bit lighter. But Fable was the next one for me. That I think does have a release date of next year from memory. I think they gave it a 2025 release date. Did you ever play the earlier games, James?
No.
So there were three-ish games on the Xbox 360 days, I think, and really good. They've got a really it's a RPG with a very English sense of humour, or British sense of humour, I should say. Lots of nonsense. The first trailer for Fable, the reboot, had Richard Ayoade as the giant from Jack and the Beanstalk, essentially. That's very good. Let that one up. And this one, I recognised the voice of the character in the video, and I thought, I can't place that. It's from a comedy somewhere. It was Super Hands from Peep Show, and as soon as I placed it, then you could kind of see it in the animation and everything as well. Fable just looks great. Looks absolutely stunning. It's a sort of action RPG. It's not very I'd say it's not very deep in terms of mechanics, but that was meant as a compliment. It wasn't not too sort of overly complex. Looks very accessible. Looks really fun, and looks like they have taken what was good about the original series and then maybe layered on more sort of fables that you might know and recognise, like the Jack and the Beanstalk situation. So really excited for that one. I'm really excited to see that we don't have too much longer to wait.
Yeah, sounds good. Were the original was all called Fable then?
Fable 2, Fable 3, and there was,
makes sense.
I think, a spin-off of some kind, and then they've just gone back to just Fable for this one. So I think it's a complete reboot rather than anything. Well, certainly if the trailers have had anything to do with it, if they're actually included in the game, it's going to be a very different world. So looking forward to that one. Time is relatively tight, James. How many have you got more? We could, I think I could certainly go on and on about this, and I would struggle to just pick one or two more, but I'll try and do that. How about you? How have you? I
was going to say you sold me on Fable, so I'll add that to my list.
Good.
Yeah, a couple of little ones. You've already mentioned Lego Horizon Adventures, which is another Lego game, and they're always good fun, so we'd no doubt get that one, and me and Joshua whack through that one. We mentioned a few months ago Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Obviously, we've got an even longer trailer now, which still looks really good. Captures some of the essence of the original, which is nice. So very much looking forward to that one, or whatever format it comes out. I think that's Xbox, isn't it? Knowing that, it'll be Xbox and PC.
Yeah, Xbox and PC.
So. Yep, cool. So looking forward to that one. And then just to flag a Switch one, because we don't talk about Switch much, even though we have one. Obviously, Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is the first Zelda game ever where you can play as Zelda.
Yeah.
So that'll be a bit different. We've got 2 of the previous Zelda games before, so it'd be nice to see this one in a bit of a different format. So looking forward to that one. And then just very quickly on 2, Age of Mythology Retold. My kind of game from the olden days. I used to spend a load of time playing Age of Empires and Age of Mythology, the original one. And it's an updated version on various platforms. So that looks really good. Obviously, the graphics are miles better in the last 12 years than they were back then. And that's a sort of a strategy, combat, discovery type game. So looking forward to that one. And finally, last but not least, is Atomfall. Atomfall. I like it because it looks very British. All the trailers show phone boxes and stuff to make sure you definitely know you're in England. And it's kind of a bit Fallout-y in some ways because there's sort of a nuclear disaster up north somewhere, which would be very unfortunate, obviously. And then you have to survive and stuff. So that's some way off. I think that's late 25 or early 26, miles away, that one. But it looks really interesting as a concept. So nearer the time, that'll probably be quite fun. And that's it for me. I'm going to wrap up the quick ones there.
Awesome, thank you for that. And I think Atomfall is dated for 2025, so if it manages to stick to it, that's good news. All good choices, all things that I had on my list as well. And yeah, shout out to the Nintendo Direct in general, because as well as the Zelda game, there was a couple of other things I thought looked kind of fun. Metroid Prime 4, Mario and Luigi Brothership, which I thought looked like it might be co-op, which makes it more interesting for me.
Yeah.
But I think the sort of press so far have said, we're not confirming that. It's, you can play it as one player, but it looks very much like it's a bit of a two-hander. So that looked really good. And just generally, Nintendo, looking to potentially bring out a new Switch maybe next year is the suggestion. And so they seem to have a really, really strong showing. They whatever they're doing it right. They can still pump out some really good games on the Switch and a great variety. So yeah, really, really glad you mentioned them because yes, we don't talk about them very much.
No. To be fair, Nintendo does have some massive IPs that never generally appear on many other platforms. So yeah, they deal with it very well for making games. They always have done, haven't they? So back since the 80s when we all started gaming, they've been going pretty strong ever since. Even though they don't really do much anymore in terms of the larger consoles, they still are massive in terms of the longevity. Also, I'm going to quickly mention it's in none of those, but a game that I want to play this month between me and Sarah is on the Switch. So the little segue, Switch and PC, so no other platforms, is Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, and that looks really great. So I think you come into like this kind of big building, like a castle or something, and you set some tasks in order to get out of it. And there's loads and loads of puzzles. There's like hundreds of puzzles in there. And it's meant to be awesome. All the ratings are really good. It's the kind of thing that me and Sarah could play on the couch together using the Switch and plug into the TV. So that'd be fun. So it's quite dark, unfortunately. You just go back to that one. It's meant to be sort of a lots of horror type stuff in this big mansiony thing, and you solve loads of puzzles to escape different bits. So it's kind of like an escape room, but also like a puzzle game, and it looks really fascinating. So that's 20 quid at the moment. It's not free, which is annoying me because I only like free stuff, but I might fork out the 20 Spondulicus and go for it on the PC or Switch. Probably Switch in front of the telly. The end.
Spondulicus. I like it.
Not did that for a long time, blimey. Where did that come from?
And depending on how much time I've got to edit, I might chop this around because just finishing off on the showcase stuff. I had a few to go through. Sorry, James. So anyway, so finishing off on the showcase, just a couple more. Perfect Dark, I thought looked great, but falls into your category of too far away for my liking. Gears, I mentioned considering playing the original Gears of War for this month, because I thought the trailer for Gears of War E-Day, which is Emergence Day, if anyone knows the lore of that series, looked fantastic. Got very excited. And then the other one I was just going to say was South of Midnight, which in terms of something a bit different, it's set in the deep south of America. It's sort of got that kind of bayou, a little bit of the folklore around that. There was a sort of giant crocodile thing, but sort of probably more friendly than I'm describing it, but he was a baddie of some kind. But the hero of that game, it doesn't look like you kind of fight people through weapons, you fight them through kind of a healing magic. It just seems a little bit more gentle, but also looks stunning, really cool art style, really cool setting. Just always like to shout out things that seem a bit different. So yeah, showcase season was pretty impressive, I thought, for a year where the industry is kind of generally being accused of having a quieter year. There is a lot going on, and like you said, some of it is further out, but also lots for us to play. Good stuff. So before we finish, we should just quickly jump back to the freebies for this month. On PlayStation Plus, we've got Borderlands 3, we've got NHL 24 and Among Us. On Game Pass, they haven't announced very much this month, but weirdly, the 3 games that I'm looking forward to come out within a day of each other, so I'm not quite sure who's in charge of scheduling. But Flintlock, Siege of Dawn, Dungeons of Hinterland, which I mentioned on a previous episode, and Path of the Goddess. And I think you mentioned a game that you're looking forward to. Was it Lorelei and the? This is where we try and recut the episode.
Yeah,
if possible.
Nice.
Although it would have been clever had I not just given the game
Fluffed
away.
it, yeah.
And now we're just gonna roll through. Imagine, listeners, in your head, if we were to take that section and just move it in here, and then you can do the editing for yourselves. There we go. How's that for an interactive session?
Amazing. I went downhill when I talked about stuff waving in my hand.
Oh, I like that. That was my favourite.
Been a nightmare since then.
Yeah, I mean,
lovely.
that's when we got demonetized, but apart from that, it was fine.